Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe, with my ongoing X-Files episode, Season 2, Episode 8, already on Disc 3. Go figure, time flies, doesn't it? Here we are, man, long at last. Maybe the benchmark for all X-Files episodes, up to here and from here on out. The benchmark. Everything, I think, my opinion, my take, they were working for and towards is this episode, which acts as a really interesting companion piece to Beyond the Sea. Reading through the IMDb trivia, it's interesting, and it makes a lot of sense that David Duchovny made the point that he was so, that's not his words, but spellbound, amazed, taken back by the work of Gillian Anderson on that episode. If you remember, that's the one where she deals with the loss of her father. And if you remember that review, that really struck home with me as much as this episode strikes home with me. And he was really just taken back and asked those powers that be if it weren't possible for him to get a meaty script where he could really put his acting chops to work. Well, this is an R.W. Goodwin. He directed this episode, but this is a script that comes compliments of Glen Morgan and James Wong again. They really hit it out of the park with this episode. I cannot stress enough. This is a benchmark, maybe the benchmark. We'll see. Up to this point, we may change our minds from here forward if I think they surpassed this benchmark. Now, what does that mean? It's like everything the X-Files was working up towards and would be from here on out is laid out in grand fashion in this particular episode. You've got everything, almost everything at work here in this episode. You've got David Duchovny, Fox, David's really got a meaty script, something he can really let his abilities run wild, and it is phenomenal from the very first scenes. It just goes, and everyone steps up in here, not just him, but everyone. Just Gillian's presence is pretty amazing, and she really doesn't have to do a lot, at least until the end. Mr. X has an incredible moment, I think, of dialogue with Mulder. Mulder has an incredible scene with, as he refers now as Cancer Man. Some insight into this world of conspiracy and deniability and non-accountability and who do you trust? Who can you trust in this world? And loss is to be expected. Skinner, what an unbelievable moment for Skinner with Mulder after he has turned in his resignation. His story about his experience in Nam and not just killing the child in order to prevent more collateral damage as he had was covered in grenades. But he himself is nearly as a casualty, nearly dies. Maybe should have, I don't know. But he has sort of an out-of-body experience that he relates to Mulder, and contextually as it is in the moment of where Fox is, he's quit. He's going to leave. He feels guilty over Scully's death, who now is in a hospital, residing in a coma, and pretty quick order. They are going to unhook the machines and leave it to her and let her decide on her own if she is going to stay with, as her sister Melissa, who is in this episode, says early on, she is in the moment of choosing whether to move on or to stay. But she has a presence around her, be it an angel, that we, which a lot of this just hits so home to me. The moment of William Scully, the dad, and his dialogue with a very quiet Dana. Skinner's whole, I almost trailed off, man. Skinner's out-of-body experience and his point to Mulder that he can't look beyond what he really can't even really process, be at that moment. But for Mulder, he can move beyond that moment. And so really it is up to Mulder. Mulder's calling, providentially, I guess, is to be the spearhead of the X-Files, uncovering conspiracy, bringing those in government to accountability if possible. And Mulder gets opportunities, at least two right off the top of my head, where he can, he has an opportunity to kill Cancer Man, doesn't. He has a real opportunity to kill at least what has been told to him as those responsible for Scully's condition. X tells him that those responsible believe him to be out of country and will come to his house at a certain time, and because they believe they've been fed information that they need to be looking for in his desk, but he will be waiting, as X tells him, with his gun in hand, and he will terminal. What is he? Terminal. Oh, I can't remember the phrase he used, but it's just kill him in self-defense. But Melissa shows up unannounced, and as a result of some of the things that she has to say to Mulder, he chooses ultimately not to be there that evening, but by the bedside of Dana. And as a result, when he comes back home in the morning, of course, as X said it would be, everything's been turned inside out over his how many times will Wood be here, right? Seeing his apartment or his office or whatever just turned upside down. So you got an incredible performance by Mitch Pileggi as Skinner. X delivers Melissa's first time. What's her name there? Melinda McGraw as Melissa Scully. Of course, Sheila comes back as Margaret Scully. And then you got the lone gunman in a really great. See, that's what I'm talking about. All the ingredients for just a masterful episode is laid out, and even the gunman. There's Free Hickey, but I can't. He shows up to see Dana and brings flowers in, but it's his initiative that gets the charts out of there, and ultimately back in their little lair, him and the other two and Mulder are able to ascertain that someone is probably had experimented her, injected her, introduced some DNA, to what end or purpose we don't know, but whatever it was being done is done, and unfortunately, her condition is such that there's probably no hope. There's a great moment where Mulder is at home, even towards the end, and I think even more than when he's left there to be consumed by the darkness, looking up into the sky, empty without Dana. He's in his apartment, and he just he's right now. He's in a doorway. And he just begins to cry, and it's just sort of very, very slowly falls to the floor. I'm just going to say this. I revisited this for the first time in a very, very long time the other morning in the quietness and blackness of my movie room with just me and the material engaging. Now, I'm just going to be honest. For pretty much through the whole thing, I wept, I cried. And now, again, some of this strikes home with me. I've been experienced certain scenarios that are somewhat kind of reflected here in this show that it becomes very, very, very personal on a deeper level. But then it also too can just contextually with the story and loving these characters and I know putting this in, I know that Scully's going to come out of this and there's all the adventures that lay forward. But, it's such a well-written episode. Forget about, you sort of put that out by the wayside. You say, no, let's just engage in this moment. And in this moment, we're being told that there's no hope, that Mulder, who says himself, hates himself for what he has become, and the loss of Scully he's at a point where the only thing in front of him is to leave. Now, rarely do we have moments like this in the 11 seasons that are just this powerful. One that comes to mind, one is season finale, episode 5. And I can't wait to get there. It's going to be a long trek, but we get there. It's going to be great. And this is the episode, of course, that segues into the first feature-length film, right? And it's a moment where he comes into an absolutely burned out office. Everything's lost. The X-Files, everything is gone. And Scully comes in as he's already standing amidst just blackened char. And she comes in and she doesn't say a word. She doesn't have to. She just slowly embraces him. And the two stand there. She's the only one who can even begin to get the emotional complexity of what is happening inside of him. And it's one of the great moments in X-Files seasons. This is such a great episode. One Breath. Again, a companion piece to Beyond the Sea. William Scully, the guy who plays him. I don't think I wrote his name down. Also brings it. Just a couple things. Cancer Man. It's the first time Cancer Man's introduced in terms of nickname. First time Mulder, another great scene. Mulder puts up the X taped on it's the first time he does that, and no response. And it's just such an empty moment in that early morning light as it's coming through the window and he pulls the X off. Great moment early on in the opening scenes when Scully shows up at the hospital in her coma state. When Mulder comes in, man, his emotion is just unleashed at a level that I don't think we have seen anything like that in the X-Files up to this point. I love it when cigarette smoking man says, I'm in the game because I believe what I'm doing is right. And there's just seems to be this really gray area of who really are the bad guys and who aren't, who are really the good guys. And sometimes this world is so gray back and forth, although, Mulder and Scully are our two heroes, but this is an episode where Skinner really comes into his own, and we can say to ourselves, it's okay to trust him. We can trust him. And there's a great moment, maybe the best moment between Skinner and Mulder, is in the I Want to Believe film at the end of it, when he is the one, in fact, that is holding Mulder, telling him it's going to be all right. I'm just starting to tear up thinking about it. If you love these characters, if you're invested in this show, this is my moment to draw the line in the sand. These are emotions that do come, and it's because we love this show. This show is I think it's one of the greatest shows that ever went into syndication. And it's so relevant, even today at this moment. Deniability, non-accountability, lack of trust. These are all things that we see around us in authority and around us, unfortunately, way too much. Way too much. I think I said earlier, this is first appearance of Scully's sister Melissa as well. And apparently there was something was going to be written in to the effect of perhaps a relationship between Melissa and David, but that was quickly abandoned, thankfully. I'm not sure how that would have worked out. But you can see that, actually. You can see it in Melissa's eyes sometimes, in the way she looks at Mulder, as though she is maybe just an over amount of curiosity. She's curious, intrigued by him and what Dana sees. And then, of course, the moment at the end when Scully realizes that perhaps contemplating, was this an angel at her bedside? Being with her in that in-between moment of, do we go, do we not go, was also pretty fascinating to look at. And just seeing more of her character without even her giving it to us, with the exception of in the end, and her own faith, her personal faith, and what this means to her, what Mulder means to her in that relationship that is only going to continue to strengthen and grow tight. Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I'll just stop there. A benchmark for X-Files. A moment to really just sit and ponder and think. This was all working, I think, up to this point. I think the only one missing here in this episode was Krychek. I'm not sure how you could have worked him in, but he might be the only one that was missing. And I do love X, man, trying to put a little guilt on Mulder. Not only did you get my predecessor killed, Deep Throat, but you got Scully killed. I mean, these are levels of guilt that are being laid on Mulder, and I just think David does an incredible job with the writing and the script and what he's being asked. I just think everything just works perfect. I think it's a perfect episode from start to finish. What do you think? My Buffalo Bills, this is, I'm recording this pretty early on, a few weeks before it drops, I think. This is the day delayed, but this is Monday when my Bills will finally take the field, hopefully at 4:30 to take on Pittsburgh, our first opportunity in the playoffs. And hopefully that will go well and we'll win and move on. So with all that being said, and to all those out in Western New York, in the Buffalo, Niagara Falls region that have been hit with this incredible storm, my heart definitely goes out to those and those who are just weary of shoveling. I'm so glad I'm not there anymore. Anyways, as always, winning these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.